of the screen, and this will help us collect and organize questions efficiently. And this Q&A will be addressed towards the end of the session during a dedicated discussion segment where our speakers will respond to as many questions as possible. And in the meantime, to minimize disruptions, participants' microphones and the general chat will be disabled. Finally, we encourage you to stay with us until the end of the session, as we will be sharing some important final announcements and information during the closing remarks. And now, before giving the space to the moderator, I'd like to say a few words about the webinar series and how it is linked to the Mediterranean Network Forum. So as mentioned previously, this webinar is the second out of a series of three webinars. The first one was focused on forest health, and it took place on February 5th. If you have missed it and are interested in watching the recording, please visit the link that will be shared in the chat in a few. And as for the last webinar, it will be dedicated to wildfires, highlighting regional efforts to strengthen wildfire governance within sustainable forest management. And this webinar will be held on March 4th. So if you're interested in this topic, please scan the QR code visible on the slide to register to the webinar. And now, what are the main objectives of the webinar series and how do they contribute to a broader framework of dialogue and action? Well, these webinars are directly linked to the Mediterranean Network Forum taking place in Valencia from March 23rd until March 27th. The forum will bring together scientists, practitioners, public authorities, and civil society actors who are actively engaged in addressing the challenges of Mediterranean forest management for resilience. The program will include scientific sessions, field visits, and hackathons, creating a space for dialogue between research, practice, and policy. And on the second day of the forum, 3 scientific sessions will address key priorities that were identified during the Mediterranean Research Agenda. These focus on forest and diplomacy, highlighting the role of cooperation and governance in building resilience. The second session is about ecosystem services and bioeconomy, to which this webinar directly contributes to. And the third one is about biodiversity and resilience, exploring ecological foundation of sustainable forest management. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, registration for the forum is now closed. However, we are pleased to share that the main outcomes of the scientific session and hackathons will be consolidated and disseminated after the event to ensure that the knowledge generated will continue to inform stakeholders and support evidence-based decisions-making to strengthen the regional collaboration across the Mediterranean. And the main objective of this webinar series is to gather and synthesize key messages that are related to each of these session themes, benefiting from a broad and diverse audience beyond the forum itself. And all of the main insights and challenges that will be raised today will be carried forward into the forum session, helping to ensure an informed, inclusive, and meaningful in-person discussion. And with that, and without further ado, I will now give the floor to Matteo Mazzoni, Project Officer at the Mediterranean Model Forest Network, who will be moderating this webinar. Matteo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers and all the people who attend the webinar. For me, it's a pleasure to be part of it. I will moderate this webinar, and this webinar is organized in 3 thematic focus about environmental, economy, and human health, all about model forest therapy, with a general introduction to the reality of model forest, speaking with Toni Ventre, a forest engineer, and he is the General Secretary of Mediterranean Model Forest Network. And I will speak on behalf of Marcello Miozzo, that is the president of Montagne Fiorentine Model Forest, to present you the model forest of Montagne Fiorentine reality and the project in particular about forest therapies called FORSA. But Toni, you can start. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Matteo. Thanks a lot for your presentation, and thanks to EFI, to EFI for giving me this opportunity. I'm going to share my screen for my presentation. Do you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thanks. So as Matteo said, my name is Toni Ventre. I'm a forest engineer, and here I have the honor to represent the Mediterranean Model Forest Network as General Secretary and on behalf of Tuscany Region Administration, which manage the Secretariat since 2019. And it's really a pleasure to be here, mainly because I will have the opportunity with you to listen to all the speakers and for going deeply in the topic about forest therapy, and so interesting opportunity for the management of sustainable forest management in the Mediterranean area. And we have to talk. My task is to provide briefly what model forests are and why the model forests fit perfectly in this topic about the valorization of multifunctionality of forest and especially about the forest therapy. So the model forest was born in 1992 in Canada, thanks to the Canada government, and the concept was born at that time, where they have a lot of conflict for different interests about the forest management among the First Nation, environmentalists, forest workers, and authorities, and so on. And so it was presented at the Rio Conference in 1992, and then it became a network, a global network in 1995. So nowadays, we can see that after more than 33 years, there are 6 regional networks, and we have more than 60 model forests around the world, and in 37 countries, and it covers more than 70 million hectares. So it represents the largest network about landscape in the world, for sure. And so about the governance, as I said, we have a 6 regional network. We are organized in 6 regional area, and in Mediterranean region, thanks to Castilla Leon region in 2008, the Mediterranean network was born here, also here, and since 2019, the Tuscany region take the responsibility also in a view of to share the responsibility and task and commitments in order to manage the Secretariat for this area. And this secretariat is managed by Tuscany region with the help of the Montagne Fiorentine Model Forest Association and the Municipality Union of Valdarno and Val di Sieve. So basically, the 6 principles that the drivers of our network are 3 concepts, 3 pillars: landscape, partnership, and sustainability, and then other 3 principles about governance, program of activities, and knowledge sharing. So regarding our area in the Mediterranean basin, to date, we have 14 members. We have 9 model forests officially recognized, and 5 initiative model forests in 12 countries with over 1.5 million hectares. And so, as I said, the principle I have already talked about, but it's really crucial to understand that the model forest is not a project, but is a process, a dynamic process. And it is not a linguistic issue, but it's an effective way to maintain a collaboration among different categories, which has sometimes a different interest over the time. And obviously, they have to share at least these 3 principles about landscape, partnership, and sustainability. So but why the model forest process has been able to work for more than 30 years? Really because it had a really innovative approach regarding multifunctionality of a forest. So when we talk about this now, it's quite obvious, but 33 years ago, it was not so obvious, and the innovative idea, the innovative approach was to face the management of the forest within a landscape approach. And so I think that along these 33 years, we were able to see how the different concepts developed by the model forest approach now are very fashionable. Now I can say about the concept like citizen science or living lab. So, for instance, just these two concepts are completely fitted in the model forest approach. So, and another point that I think is very important is the approach regarding the knowledge sharing with the two different level, because as network we work at a local level, because each model forest engage different categories in the local area. Now you know that all people who has a kind of relationship with the forest management and landscape management, so that the list is very long, we know, but what we need is that to have a real shared approach in order to reach the objective of those kind of area that we know, for instance, in Europe, but really in Mediterranean basin, but indeed in over the world, we are talking about the rural areas where the problem that we have to face mainly is the lack of management, the lack of interest by policies, sometimes by the administration, but also because less and less people live there. So we are a real local network. The second level is to share among the different regional network, different model forests in the same regional network, and also at the global level. So we have a lot of partnership with the different international bodies like FAO, EFI, and the Slow Food International, and so on, universities and forest certification schemes, and so on. And in what way the model forest works? So we have Mediterranean network work, but so we work a lot about the European Union program, but not only, because we work about in the Horizon program, Life, Erasmus, and so on, but we have also good collaboration with ICI or with FAO or Italian Agency for Cooperation and Development. And so just to mention some project that we attended in, Digimed 4 project is one project which involve different 4 model forests in the Mediterranean network and work about digitalization in the forestry sector and traceability. And but each model forest has its own project, sometimes shared with other model forests, sometimes no. But you can see here a very long list. But so we can mention ecotourism, forest pedagogy and forest therapy, landscape and forest restoration, forest workers training, no wood products valorization. So basically we work about a full multifunctionality of the forest and of the landscape. So about the collaboration in the network, so we are trying to develop more and more collaboration in order to share the experience of each model forest, of each regional network. So this one is just an example in the collaboration with the Latin American model forest network, where we shared through a webinar the different experience of 5 model forests in the Mediterranean area and 5 model forests in Latin American network. Or here we have a presentation, a collaboration with the Canadian network during the last global forum, or about forest therapy, the collaboration that we had with the Kyoto Model Forest of Asia regional network. But just some example. So we know that later we will have the opportunity to listen to the speakers of about the FORSA project, a specific project about forest therapy in the Montagne Fiorentine model forest. But now I would like to highlight that also other model forests work about the same topic. So in France, we have PACA, Provence, Alpes, Côte d'Azur model forest, promoted model forest therapy for 5 years through public events, publication, communication tools. In Greece, Western Macedonia organized in the last 2 years a public event named Forestival, where they gave the opportunity to have forest therapy and inclusivity approach in the forest management. And the same in Croatia, in Istria Model Forest, they are working in the last 4-5 years in the forest bathing and in forest pedagogy. So just to mention that, so all network work about this topic, and so this morning we have the opportunity to listen just that one. So regarding the forest therapy and forest bathing, in what way fit in the sustainable forest management and vice versa? Because so really forest therapy strengthens the social value of forest, for sure. Forest therapy encourages low impact and sustainable use of the forest. The economic diversification for rural areas, I stress about this because I think it's the main point that we have to face in order to have a real change of direction about the valorization of the rural landscape, rural management, and don't use it just like a picture for the citizens. And so the incentive for maintaining high quality forest ecosystem. So, and scientific validation supports a long-term planning, because if we include, we are able to include all the aspect of the multifunctionality, including forest therapy in the forest plan, so we can have a real 36 degrees approach in the forest management. So we had a very quick overview of the network. I hope that I was able to provide you an idea about what way the model forest works. So, but anyway, we are available to for anyone want more information. You can find at the website here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you very much for your presentation about the Mediterranean model forest network. That is it's very important for us, for all the model forest here in our territory. I will speak briefly about our reality, about the Montagne Fiorentine model forest. There is a local partnership established in the Apennine area near the metropolitan city of Florence, within the territories of Unione dei Comuni Valdarno e Val di Sieve. There are 7 municipalities in our territory. As Toni said, this is one model forest that is part of the international network of model forest, and of course is part of the Mediterranean model forest network, and works with the Tuscany region to manage it. Bringing together municipalities, public bodies, research institutes, forest owners, enterprise and civil society organization, the model forest try to work to enhance ecological and social and economic value of forest landscape. But not only about it's not only about forest, of course. It's also about production, is also about society, people, and all the actors that live in our territory. Our core mission is to promote sustainable forest management, strengthen the local forest-based value chain, and support climate adaptation strategies and develop innovative practices such as nature-based therapies like forest therapy and forest education and environmental education. We work in several different scales about the territory. As Toni said before, we work also in European project, Horizon Life European project, that permit us to work together with a lot of different reality across the world, actually. And we also work a lot in a very small scale project about our territory, in meeting people and doing environmental education in our schools, doing trekkings or forest therapy session in all the path in our territory. And through participatory governance and integrated territorial planning, the Fiorentine Mountains Model Forest acts as a living laboratory where environmental protection, rural development, and community well-being are addressed in a coordinated long-term perspective. And we have a lot of different kind of projects in our association with all the partners of our association. And I will speak about the FORSA, FORSA project. Can you see my screen? Yeah, sure, cool.
Yes.
And as I told you, the FORSA project is about the resilience and landscape linked to the bioeconomic opportunities, because it's not just something that aim about human well-being, but also social and bioeconomy reality in our territory. And all the project was based on the scientific research carried out by CNR. And I will present after this presentation the two researchers that help us to create this project, actually. And we had more than 20 partners in this project, all very different kind of partners, from public partners like Unione dei Comuni Valdana del Val di Siena, that are the union of the municipalities of our territory, the CNR, of course, but also private sector, like farms or forest owners, like Marchesi Frescobaldi, also social entities like Lama and CAT, and environmental guide association like Ecotondo. With the help of the CNR, we found out 4 suitable paths to do forest therapy, one in all different municipalities in our territory. The first one is in Rufina, that is the path called Moscia. One in Reggello, that he calls Anello dei Giganti, because is a giant ring, because during this path we can meet the biggest trees in Italy. One more in San Godenzo, that is in a national park, actually. And the last one in Londa, that is in public territory. The section of the characteristics in this path are the presence of certain kind of trees that CNR will talk better than me after. The presence of water, the length and difference in attitude that you have not to be too much, and it has to be a very simple track, and accessibility, of course. We had a long timetable. We had a 1 year of project. We made 7 different experimental forest therapy in collaboration with CNR. So they were all about the scientific research. We involved more than 175 people. And at the end, this is a slide stolen by the CNR researchers that they will talk about this better than me, about the results of the research about these four paths. And one last thing that we did was to involve also the community in our work, to see how forest therapy can be useful for the people and for the territory for now on. So it's not something that ends with these 7 forest therapy sessions, but it is something that will continue in the future, and we will be useful for all the people in our territory. So thank you. I hope to see you with us here in our path, and I will interrupt it. Okay, and I will give the floor to Federica Zabini and Francesco Meneguzzo, that are senior researcher at the Institute of Bioeconomy of National Research Council in Italy. They work together in research activities in valorization of ecosystem services like forest therapy, of course. And they really, as I told you, they really help us in our project FORSA, being our scientific reference point. So they will talk about the environmental part of forest therapy and about the research. So thank you very much.
I hope you can see. So I will present the results, the introduction to the scientific evidence on forests and human well-being and environmental prerequisites for forest therapy. This presentation was prepared with a colleague, Federica Zabini. Yeah. I thank you very much. Congratulations to Toni and Matteo for the great introduction and the great presentation of the FORSA Forest and Health project. Now we'll stay a bit more, let's say, general, with some specific and original results. So first, introduction to forest therapy, the nature, the scope, and the aims. First, if we define it as a therapy, forest therapy must be administered by clinical professionals that are universally recognized as psychotherapists, this type of professionals. First, because if it is a therapy, it is needed that the clinical professionals are the guides. And second, because psychotherapists can timely identify and mitigate the possible individual risks that also encountered also during the FORSA project. And it is normal, of course, because deep immersion can be shocking for some people. So few, luckily for few people, but it can happen. And it must be mitigated as timely as possible. Second, this kind of intervention, this guided forest immersion can be defined as therapy if the statistical significance and the size of the effects are known. And really qualified sites must show significance and a size of the effects that is also clinically relevant. Also conditioned on specific population, specific patient cohorts, and also related to personal traits or stages of the specific diseases. The experience of forest immersion guided by clinical professionals, that is forest therapy conditioned on the above criteria, consists minimal sensory focus on the surrounding environment and excludes practically any other type of let's say, of action that is a minimum physical effort, because of course exercise is important, and is also demonstrated that exercise in forests, in other projects where we are involved, but in general literature, that exercise in forests is more effective than indoor exercise or exercise in urban environments. But forest therapy excludes relevant physical effort because it focuses on the it is centered on the on focusing our senses on the surrounding environment, because benefits come from the surrounding environments are mediated by our senses. And it is individual health intervention. So a general recommendation is that there is no interaction among participants. Ideally, it should be administered at one person per time, but of course it is unfeasible on the economic side. So it is performed in group, but it is focused on the individual. About criteria for suitable sites, accessibility, safety, environmental quality and properties, and of course the direct verification of the effects on people. About the, sorry for the Italian on the right, but it is very easy to understand from the left panel. It consists in the simpler structure of 4 stops focused on the senses, for example, here on smelling, sight, touch, and hearing, and another bit longer stop, 20 minutes. The earlier ones were 15 minutes. The later is 20 minutes with a sense of choice. And if applicable, let's say for people who can move, there are short and very slow walking of about 5 minutes across the different stops, and then with a 20 minutes slow walk to the end point, to the finish of the trail. This protocol is very simple, structured, and interoperable, because it was designed in order to be interoperable by different psychotherapists across about 70 different sites across Italy, really from southern Austria, but let's say from northeastern Italy to Sicily, and it's adaptable to different environments. Of course, it encourages the focusing on the senses and individual immersion. This is an example of panels that were deployed on one of the many tracks, many trails that were equipped with panels. In this case, as in most of cases, in both Italian and English. And these are exactly the instructions that are also communicated verbally by psychotherapists. But the issue that you could raise now is that why do we deploy panels, signs, if forest therapy must be administered by psychotherapists? Well, these deploying panels is performed mostly for as let's say for touristic purposes. Of course, it is important for self-guide, self realization of the experience, and as a quality mark, let's say. And so it is important for the development of rural side, rural mountain and forest sites, and related communities. Of course, because they are permanent and make available the trail for all people. And we'll come back on this issue on this topic in a few minutes. First, the structural environmental criteria. This is mostly based on a study performed about 1.5 years ago by our partners in Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. So, I said before, accessibility and safety are paramount importance, because there must be no difficulty and no fatigue for the accession to the forest therapy trails, and safety along the trail is mandatory, because any safety issue would be a distraction. Geomorphological features, the slope must be as low as possible, as small as possible, because physical effort must be minimum. Then context features and ecological forestry characteristics. And what are these? First, no plantations, because plantation, evident plantation, recent young plantation are destructive for the experience, because distracts the, let's say, the fractal dimension of the site. So natural woodland forest or renaturalized also. Sufficient vegetation density is important, and recent research show that a minimum vegetation density is needed for a consistent experience, and more importantly for significant results. Preferable the presence of surface water, and here for example, the trail, as Matteo said before, in Moscia and I go by memory, and Borbotto, that is San Gotenzo Borbotto, were impressive for this, for example. And exposure, sunlight at least from 9 AM to 3 PM, because sunlight is very important both for weather comfort, meteorological comfort, and for the emission concentration of monoterpenes. It's important that there is a refuge, a reception, a refreshment point at the start or at the finish, because it is important for let's say for the perception of safety. The absence of artificial sounds for about 70% of the trail, that is very, very difficult to obtain, because no artificial noise is widespread, and no grazing, very important, due to ticks and insects. It is destructive, and we are affected by this in other experiences, not in along the FORSA trails, of course. Possibly, if possible, low allergenic plants is very important. And so for microclimate, comfort index is must be that is the discomfort index must be between 16 and 24. And it is we must target the 15 to 25 degrees range of temperature, and the relative humidity 40 to 70%. This is the rule of thumb. Light to moderate wind, and avoid warm and hot days is very, very important, because the effects become simply inconsistent. If slides will be shared with participants. I don't know who it is, but there are all the references are linked here. The monoterpenes typically in temperate stands, such as the FORSA and most of Italy, alpha-pinene up to 200 nanograms per cubic meter, and some of monoterpenes up to 300 nanograms per cubic meter. A pragmatic site qualification target with alpha-pinene that is most studied and likely the most effective. Monoterpene, more than 60 micro, sorry, it is a nanogram, of course, sorry for the unit. And some of monoterpenes 80 nanograms per cubic meters. And all the conifer stands, warm and dry early morning, afternoon, low wind are ideal conditions, and to avoid high ozone episodes that oxidize the monoterpenes and high particulate matter that absorbs attenuate. It is so the trials should be as far as possible from pollution sources. Why monoterpenes? Because here there are not so many. I have not inserted references because they are really too many, but you can follow our articles or the site above here where you can find all the articles. Alpha-pinene is the most studied, at least, which is directly anxiolytic, antidepressant, sedative, and also physiological activities like such as anti-inflammatory, analgesic, antioxidant, anti-proliferative, anti-asthmatic, and in general, it is very important for the activation of immune cells such as natural killer cells. These activities are shared by most monoterpenes with some nuances, say, some differences, but the synergy across different monoterpenes that are emitted by plants, for instance, with sabinene that is emitted by beech, which is the Fagus sylvatica, which is the most widespread plant tree in Italy, with more than 2 billion individuals, are more effective than individual monoterpenes. A big study in 2024 in Nature showed that in the natural environment, monoterpenes show direct anti-inflammatory activities with a synergistic increase in natural killer cells, likely through the pathway of the gut microbiota homeostasis. And it is quite synergical with the forest therapy, because forest therapy, irrespective of monoterpenes, reduces the cortisol, which is a so-called stress hormone, which is immunosuppressive, and its reduction opens the way to the natural killer activation via the monoterpenes. It is important to know that the persistence of effects are shared by psychological benefits and by physiological benefits and psychological benefits. And the rule of thumb is that 20 minutes bring effects for 1-2 days, 3 hours for 1 week, and 2-3 days up to 1 month ahead. Negative ions, another emerging feature of forest environments. They are more abundant where there are water streams or waterfalls, but also in the presence of conifer plants, because the needles of the conifer plants are weakly conductive, conductive of electricity, and they can ionize the oxygen and produce negative ions, which are very beneficial for mood depression, for depression, anxiety, depression, and autonomic regulation. That is, they act on the HRV, heart rate variability, which is directly related to the to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system activation. And this is an emerging field that also points to the positive feature of the forest environment, or at least a part of the forest environments. So, summarizing, mountain conifers plus water stream waterfall, greater probability of monoterpenes, especially alpha-pinene, plus high negative air ions, especially near water. And coastal pine forests also for marine aerosol, water motion that produces negative air ions, and shedding and thermal comfort. And also pure beach stands that are quite common in Italian Apennines. Typically, beach Fagus sylvatica produce a strong emission and dust concentration of monoterpenes, especially sabinine and cement. Plus, there are many fascinating trees, monumental trees that are very effective also. About evidence, here, I think it is, I hope that slides will be shared, but there are many studies for psychological effects, outcomes, let's say, stress, anxiety, depressive symptoms, sleep, and cortisol, many with sorry, significance, high significance, and also effects. Here, 0.4 is medium effect, 0.8 is great effect. Also, we arrive at great effects for psychological in the psychological sphere. That means already medium is already clinically relevant.
Francesco,
Great is extraordinary.
Francesco, sorry, I asked you to go to the conclusions.
I go to the conclusion. So you will read on the slides. Okay. I just want to show this. That is the conclusions of our last work that defines the impact of therapist guide against self-guide. So therapist guided by a therapist and self-guide reading the panels along the forest therapy trail. Only this difference, verbal communication or reading and interpreting the signs. The difference, you can say the different size of the effects. For the anxiety, you see very big effects against small effects, and for self-esteem, big effects against small effects. The difference is also translates into economic value that we evaluated based on the results from 3,000 persons involved, and an hypothetical but realistic forest therapy program, and the value with the therapist is per person is from 3,500 to 9,500 euros per person per year, against which is 1.7 times higher than self-guide. So, and with the certainty, with psychotherapist guide of certainty of effects and complete safety. So this leads to the integration of forest therapy, should lead to the integration of forest therapy into healthcare practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesco and Federica, for this presentation. I will go further about the economy focus about this webinar, and giving the stage to Davide Pettenella, that is a full professor of the University of Padova in Italy, where he's teaching forest economics, and he is a founder of ETIFOR, a benefit company, spin-off of the university. And I saw there is also Ilaria Domio that works in it. And then we'll speak also about the economy, Andrea Dini, that is a licensed outdoor guide since 2009. He holds an environmental educator and is part of the executive board of Montagne Fiorentina Model Forest. he helped us during the forest therapy session in the project FORSA. So Davide, thank you.
Thank you, Matteo. Can you hear me? Can you see the slides? Everything is
Sure.
okay? Perfect.
Sure.
Fantastic. So thanks a lot to the Mediterranean Model Forest Network for this invitation. It's really a pleasure to stay with you to speak about so interesting topic. We have only 10 minutes, so we can give you only a very draft idea about the very important socio-economic aspects connected with the development of forest therapy. As you see, I prepare this presentation with Ilaria Doimo, that is working at 84, that is a spin-off of the University of Padova, where a large group of people are working mainly on the topics connected with the socio-economic aspect of green care and forest therapy. So how we thought to organize our presentation, discussing only three topics. Let's say the demand side of the activity connected with forest therapy, the supply side, and then as a final remark, some global level remarks connected with the impacts of the spreading of forest care activity in the forest sector, the impacts that they have in the values perception by forester and other people. These slides are already available on the web. So let's start with a short view of the socioeconomic benefits of forest healthcare, the so-called demand side. We have already heard by Francesco that forest care initiatives have an important role in reducing incidence of diseases. And this incidence, this impact depends on the target and type of intervention. In order to have a broad view of the target and types of intervention, we developed this triangle of forest therapy, of forest care, with 3 levels of targets and types of intervention. First, a basic level, where we mainly focus on health promotion with a very large audience, the whole population, visiting a forest, doing informal activity in the forest. A second level that is more focused on disease prevention for at-risk people suffering for some psychological and physical problem. And finally, the more focused aspect connected with individual suffering for some mental and physical condition that may be subject to a real alternative type of therapy, entering and using structured forest infrastructure. When we are speaking about the economic impacts for these 3 categories of people connected with the use of forest therapy facility, we may have 2 perspectives, 2 approaches in analyzing cost and benefits, 2 dimensions of the problem. We can observe the economic values connected with the forest-based health services, or we can make a reference to evaluate the economic and social benefits to the alternative conventional treatments. We really have no time to go in detail, giving you a lot of examples of these 2 type of socioeconomic aspect that I was mentioning. But only to give you a very general idea, we can quote quite a recent research where we found out that the value of socio-cultural services at broad level is very high, much higher than the values has been estimated for the other two categories of ecosystem services, the provisioning services and the regulating services. We have not detailed information on the values, specific value of healthcare, forest-based services at broad level, at the level of a continent or of a country. But I would like at least quote a work done in Australia where they have estimated the impacts on human health of the use of protected area. And the value, the total value for the country was, as you see, 2.1 trillion US dollars per year. The second dimension of the economic values of forest therapy is connected with public health care saving. And you know that we are facing a problem of increasing cost of the conventional medical treatments. Here, not a very recent, indeed, graph showing you the cost for the health service of conventional treatment in terms of spending for 1 day hospital treatment in different European countries. You see that we are speaking about very, very high cost. And in order to give you a general idea, think that green prescription program cost half as much as a 10-session behavior therapy, conventional therapy, as it results from a survey made in UK. So we are speaking about very high social return on investment. That is one of the most common indicators of benefits deriving from different type of treatments. And we have not to forget that, of course, there are also some non-financial benefits connected with this treatment, this therapy. Positive extra financial value or social value generating results for the greater value that the capital invested in the forest. Second point, the supply side, the socio-economic benefits of forest health care therapy. Well, we are speaking about at least 4 important types of innovation. The first innovation is connected with new green jobs. Have you already understood from Francesco's presentation, then when we speak about forest therapy, we speak about clinical professionals, but also of psychologists or sociologists, and of course a forester, all working together also with teachers and with other professions. That are important new actors in the forestry sector. Unfortunately, we have a lack of data. And even also, we don't know which type of indicator can be suitable, the best to represent this new element of the professional activity that can be done with the forest. But we have a clear perception that there are very interesting numbers, very interesting figures. And one specific aspect of this new professional activity is that the new forest therapy initiative are changing a very traditional, conventional gender imbalance that we are considering normally, traditionally in the forest sector. I am making a quotation that I think is quite impressive from an old book of forest economics. The first and foremost purpose of forest growth is to supply us with wood material. Forest means producing wood. That is the old vision. And there has been a gender revolution the last years, thanks to the socio-cultural effects, impacts, ecosystem services, and specifically to forest therapy from a traditional view based on the masculine role to...
Sorry, Davide, I have to ask you to go to the conclusion.
Yes, thanks. The second aspect is connected with the forest-based care initiative as hybrid organization, putting together state, community, and market in so-called PPP, partnership. And finally, important aspect connected with the positive outcomes of the presence of forest therapy initiative facilities in the rural development policy. As you can see from this graph from the Eurobarometer, one criteria to select an area for spending some days of relax and holidays is the presence of natural environment that can be used also for this type of activity. Finally, as a last consideration, I was mentioning the fact that forest therapy is helping to have a totally new view of the role and importance of forest resources. We are moving from a human-centered vision based on the instrumental value of nature to a vision well described by Ipbes, where the values of nature can be summarized as living from nature, living in nature, living with nature, and living as nature. So abandoning the traditional anthropocentric view of the forest sector. So my take-home messages at the end of this short speech, it's important to integrate the forest and healthcare sector for improving the quality of the welfare system and saving money. Promoting forest care initiative can contribute to creating new jobs, to a new gender balance in the forestry sector. Finally, forest therapy initiative can contribute to new perception of the values of forest. If you have curiosity connected with the socio-economic aspect of forest therapy, take in mind that we have been involved in 3 projects. Here you find the reference of these 3 projects, and I am associating to this presentation a short list of the literature for people that want to get deeper on the topic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Davide. Thank you very much. And I give the stage to Andrea Dini.
Here I am. Good morning, everybody. I'm very glad to be here. I think I'm part of the green jobs that Davide just mentioned. I am an outdoor guide since 15 years. I think I actually not discovering. We know that staying in forest, it's good for our health. And 25 years ago, I remember I picked up this job because I felt very well when I was walking and hiking in forest or in woodland in general. I didn't think about forest therapy at that time. But from a few years ago, since I was member of Foresta Modello, Montagne Fiorentine, I've been asked to do many things regarding the project. And so I have this little presentation for everybody. So maybe we can have some ideas of what an outdoor guide could do in forest, leading groups with this special aiming. So there are many opportunities regarding this. So I took part of the FORSA project, the project that was mentioned by Matteo and also by the CNR. And FORSA is an acronym that means Foresta e Salute, so forest and health. I also am a yoga trainer. So when I lead groups to the woodland, sometimes, not depending on the clients, on the guests, I offer woodland enjoyment through forest bathing, mostly for kids. We're going to go on that too. So we see why, forest therapy, just this picture, these are pictures of mine. Forest therapy is fantastic. I mean, forest is fantastic. So just looking at a picture makes me feel very, very, very good. So what did I do practically during the FORSA project? I supported the creation of the panels. Also was doing the scouting, so with the GPS, so I tracked the trails, and I also had some technical data. I did the photo making. I summarized the text, since as you see in the Francesco's works, in the CNR works, it's a lot of research, so that needed to be summarized and highlighted. So that's what I did, and I also did the English translation. This is the panel that was made by, not me, but I did the track. And also I helped finding out the stops. So from the start to the end, and all the sensorial stops. So from the touch, hearing, the double hearing, the smell, and the sight. So I helped that part. And also with the technical data, as I mentioned before. So the timing, as you see, is 1 kilometer, but it says 2 hours and a half, because we need to walk slow and take 15 minutes more or less for each stop. And the elevation gain you see on the right, not too much, as Francesco pointed out. So we need to be, it's not a hike, it's a kind of an easy walk that has to be made in a certain way. So I escorted groups in the last few years during the FORSA project for paths. So I had to collaborate with the therapist. So I had to find out a way to communicate with them without harassing the group. So with low voice, low volume, and doing a briefing before. So finding a way how to make the walk nice and silent, because that's very important. So usually when I'm a guide outside, outdoor taking people, I talk a lot. During this specific experience, we need to be silent. So we need to find out a way to balance that. So giving the right amount of info, so very, very small info, mostly at the beginning or at the end, like today for the question and answers at the end. And of course, the main object of my work is to keep the group safe. That's 360. But mostly during forest therapy path, we need to have people comfortable. So there should be no feeling of unsafety or risk. So I need to be very alert as a guide to find out a way if there is a problem or so, and try to keep the group as happy as we can. These are a couple of pictures. The one on the right was also in the presentation of Matteo about the FORSA. The one on the left is during listening a moment on a creek in the Vallombrosa forest. And that's the first part. I was speaking about the FORSA project. So I did also some other things about forest therapy, and that's for groups. So we had groups, private requests. So FORSA is like a public event. This section, the second part is about private requests. So from my contacts, groups asked to be led in forest and have this special experience. We had also a special forest model activity called Tre Passi a Monte, that means 3 steps on the mountain, and we did that every year. So in the last years, we are also enhancing the forest therapy, offering that for private groups. So we also involve therapists here as well. So there are 2 professionals doing this. So for the economics, as we said before, it's not just the forest or the group involved, but also therapists and guides and outdoor guides. And also the last point is safety and accuracy. So that's my main task. Other pictures of during our experiences. The one on the left was in close to Pomino on the mountains of Rufina. The one on the right, it's along the trail of the giants. You see on the left, we have the tallest trees of Italy. It's interesting to know that these are American firs, so Douglas firs, so they're from America, but they're the tallest Italian trees. So that's very interesting as well. That's the last part of my presentation, forest bathing for schools. Allora, in the last years and also for this school year, I've been asked from teachers to lead local students in the forest with this special way. So This is not therapy, as you notice, it's forest bathing. We cannot call it forest therapy because if you call it forest therapy, you need a therapist, of course. On the other side, forest bathing, I can do that. I can lead that as well. So how does it work? I offer many activities for schools, from recognizing animal tracks to identifying trees and water pollution and stuff like that. And also there is this special way for experiencing woodlands and forest. So I send all these activities to the teachers of the local teachers. And some of them, of course, they will ask to do that for their classrooms. The challenge here is to introduce a different perspective. So when leading kids, so they are very alive and full of energy. So we have to find a way to teach them to lower down their voices and try to get more inside in their inner point of view and feeling the forest deeply. That's what I feel. Because when we are too loud, it's very hard to feel. On the other side, when we got smoother and lower voices, we have this different perspective. This is how I run forest bathing. And also easy practices. So we go through senses. So from the sight to the smell to the touch. In a way, this is to enhance the connection between the student and the tree or the forest or the creek, whatever we find along our way. And what I found very interesting are the feedback evaluations. So when I end the experience, I always ask for feedbacks. And well, the teachers are very happy usually because they find out that students, they've never been so attentive and so quiet at the same time during their experience in classes where they're very noisy and alive. And the students, they're usually, I do this with primary school kids. I forgot to mention that. So very, very young. And they have a different point of view at the end. They relate with the forest in a different way. So they get more in touch physically and then mentally and emotionally with the forest. So they have a very different point of view at the end. So I'm very happy when these things happen. So I'm very glad that I can do this and help the young generation to get in touch with forest and to know forest deeply in a way also to respect and love the environment. This is a picture of mine from 1 year ago. So we got the kids with the second grade, and they're trying to keep their eyes closed, and sometimes they struggle because they're not used to. So it's for me it's interesting also to see that. But they're very curious, so they want to experience differently things. And I really love this. So I'm very happy. Question at the end on the Q&A section. So I'll be very happy to answer all the questions, and I'm done with my presentation.
Yeah, actually, you have a lot of.
Very happy to have shared this little part of my work with everybody.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Actually, yes, you have many questions in the Q&A, so in the Q&A. So after the last presentation, you have the opportunity to get all the answers. Thank you very much. I will present the last two speakers of this session about the medical part of the forest therapy, and the speakers are Letizia Proserpi, that is a medical doctor specialized in planetary health and communication science and forest therapy, of course. She's a member of One Health Commission of the Florence Medical Council, and in the 2024 she published her first book, La salute di tutto comincia da te, about ecosystem integrity, human well-being, and health promotion. So I will lead to Letizia the stage. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, wait. Aspetta, non riesco a condividere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you see the slides?
Yeah, you can see.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Oh, I can see. One moment. Mi scompare la... Ok. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I will speak today as medical doctor and forest therapy practitioner, and as well as member of the Italian working group on green prescription of the Italian Society of Doctors for Environment. I will start saying that today we are living in an increasingly urbanized environment characterized by chronic stress, sensory overload, and disconnection from natural systems. So in this landscape, forest therapy is emerging not only as not as a wellness trend, but as a preventive and integrative health intervention supported by a growing body of science evidence. And today I will focus on forest therapy as a medical and public health perspective within the field of nature-based intervention, with particular attention to the European context. So nature-based intervention are a broader landscape of intervention based on activities and strategies or programs that take place in natural settings to improve people's health and well-being by integrating the benefits of nature exposure and healthy behaviors. So as we can see from the diagram, the field is quite diverse, and they include a wide range of approaches like green exercise, horticultural therapy, conservation activities, and of course forest bathing and park prescription. So it's important to say that these programs are usually structured by combining physical activity, social interaction, and environmental exposure. Forest therapy is not synonymous of all nature-based intervention, but it is a specialized guided subtype within this broader category. So forest therapy is in fact a structured guided immersion in biodiverse environments used as a supportive and preventive health intervention. So it's important to distinguish that from forest bathing, that is a practice that originated in the 18th in Japan and consists of immersing oneself in a forest environment as a health promotion practice, which can be guided or also can well carried out independently. While forest therapy, on the other hand, is a structured approach guided by various types of professionals, like mental health professional, also wilderness guides and of course physicians who facilitate the experience. And it can also be tailored to the specific patient's health needs. There are some differences between the practice in Asia and in Europe, in which sessions are typically shorter but frequent, and often combining light walking and contemplative practices. However, I should note that training standards remain today heterogeneous, and today there is no universally recognized clinical protocol across the countries, or neither training standards for the guides. So that's something we should certainly work on in future. And before looking at the outcomes, it may be useful to briefly consider how forest therapy might exert its effect. So rather than acting through a single mechanism, it likely operates through multiple interacting pathways. First, sensory modulation. So forest environments provide a low intensity restorative stimuli that support cognitive recovery, as described in the attention restoration theory. Second, autonomic regulation. In fact, several studies shift toward parasympathetic activation with improved heart rate variability and reduced stress markers. Third, immune and environmental interaction, including exposure to phytoncide, as we saw before, and biodiverse microbiota, although the human mechanistic evidence remains preliminary. Finally, embodied slowing and interception, where reduced pace and multisensory immersion may enhance physio-psychological integration. And these pathways likely overlap and reinforce each other within complex ecological settings. So today, what does actually science tell us? The strongest evidence currently concerns stress regulation and short-term mental health outcomes. In fact, we observe, for example, reduction in salivary cortisol, improved heart rate variability, decreased blood pressure in short term, and moderate improvement in anxiety and depressive symptoms. This emerging evidence supporting the treatment of chronic diseases, including like diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disorder, and possible benefits in respiratory function, specifically in adolescents and kids with asthma and immune modulation. But all these findings require for sure replication in larger controlled trials. A common question concerns volatile organic compounds, particularly limonene and pinene, but these compounds have demonstrated some health effects like anti-inflammatory and physiopsychological effects, but only in laboratory and preclinical models. However, evidence of direct causal effects in human remains preliminary, and we need for sure more studies. And forest exposure is multisensory, so the benefits cannot be reduced only to Vox inhalation alone, because we have visual patterns, acoustic environment, olfactory stimuli, also tactile interaction, and movement within complex ecosystem. So the health effects are likely systemic and integrative rather than attributable to a single chemical pathway or a single effect. And that's also why it is so difficult to find direct causal effects between forest therapy and health outcomes. So as I said before, in the Far East, forest medicine has been more systematically integrated in preventive healthcare, like in Japan, South Korea, and China have established national programs, certification systems, and government-supported forest therapy bases. But in the West, the situation is very different. First of all, this type of health intervention has only recently arrived, requiring more solid scientific evidence and shared protocols. But there are examples of doctors prescribing nature-based interventions, such as Parker RX America and Canada, nature prescription in Scotland, Latin, and also a green social prescription in England. So recognition and implementation vary significantly between countries. And also, for sure, the diversity represents both a challenge and an opportunity. In fact, Europe in particular offers diverse ecosystem, diverse healthcare systems, and also a varied cultural relationship with nature. So studying forest therapy in Europe allows us to explore how environmental and sociocultural variables influence outcomes.
I have to ask you to go to the conclusion.
Okay, I just wanted to show the Italian green prescription case. Our work was born in the Bosco di Puc, the Puc Forest in Tuscany, led by Dr. Fiammetta Piras. Green prescription are structured, complex, and non-pharmacological clinical intervention integrating into diagnostic and therapeutic pathways. So they are very specific and work with the biopsychosocial assessment to identify clinical needs, personal goals, autonomy, and potential risk. And there is a very specific protocol that we have worked on, which you can see in the slide because I don't have time now. And I just wanted to say that we have led this 9-month pilot study on 15 patients with chronic complex condition in this pack forest, and the results were very good. We demonstrated that cumulative health benefits, including significant reduction in medication use over time, and particularly among individuals with respiratory challenges and chronic pain. And furthermore, participants showed improved environmental awareness and behavior, which is integral to effective environmental conservation. As I said before, there are some limits and opportunities in the research. For sure, we need more studies and more randomized clinical trial. But there are also a lot of opportunities, in particular in Europe, and also for the reduction of the burden on national health system all over Europe, working for sure on prevention. And as we already have said, this practice is also really important to be seen as a planetary health point of view. In fact, the critical risk is to transform this practice into wellness tourism, which we can actually cannot do. And so forest therapy, we need to see that as a tool for biodiversity protection and environmental awareness, and also for pro-environmental behaviors, because health and ecosystem protection must be interconnected goals. So my take-home message is that health and health of people and health of ecosystem can not be separated, and we need more study. But forest therapy is a really promising practice for human health and both ecosystem health. And thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Letizia. It was very precious. And next we have Elio Rossi, graduated in medicine with a specialization in infectious disease. And since 2023, he has been head of Regional Center of Integrated Medicine in Tuscany region. And he was also a guest to our final conference of FORSA project. So thank you, Elio.
Yes. Just a moment. Okay. Can you see the slide?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you for the invitation. Well, I speak on behalf of Tuscany region, and particularly from the Center of Integrative Medicine of the region of Tuscany. And these probably many of you can know that Tuscany was the first, still remain the first region in Italy that have tried to integrate complementary medicine within the public health system. And this is a list of initiatives taken starting about 30 years ago. There is a regional law that recognizes some education and the status of complementary medicine doctors and veterinaries and dentists and pharmacists. There is this local regional law became an agreement between state, region, and autonomous province in 2013. We had a policy about regional risk management and patient safety in complementary medicine, and we had some regional project, first of all about integrative oncology, but also pain management, gender medicine, atopic disease, and finally we have also a policy in international health cooperation about traditional complementary integrative medicine. This is our situation in Tuscany. You see there is about 82 clinics of complementary medicine, mainly of acupuncture, but also herbal therapy and homeopathy and others. And this is our number of visits, and well, it's about 39,000 of visits every year, with a trend of increasing number of the visit. And this is the number of patients, about 8,500 patients seen every year. This is the year 24, but 25 is coming in the next few days. So this is the setting in which we received the proposal to have to sustain, support a project about forest therapy by the sector of anesthesia of the hospital of Cecina in Tuscany, and about the use of the effect of forest therapy on a patient with fibromyalgia. And this is the resolution that we approved in 2025, still operating. Is a 3 years resolution, so it's cut into 25 and is finishing at the end of 27. And I try to describe what it means. This is the general objective, to evaluate the effectiveness of forest therapy as a broad spectrum non-pharmacological intervention in improving the functional, psychological, and physiological condition of patients with fibromyalgia, assessing both acute effects and their persistence over time. This is what is in the resolution. We start with the identification of georeferencing of suitable trials, including at least a wooded area dominated by stone pine, like example Tomboli of Cecina Natural Reserve, and at least one wooded area dominated by olm oak, and then, of course, a joint site inspection before to select this area, and the definition of the structural stages of the trials. This is other important evolution of our work, selection of analytic tools, socio-demographic characteristics, functional status, psychological dimension, and medical use. Of course, this will be done with the questionnaires, and with the definition also of a physiological measurement protocol, such as cardiac, inflammatory, oxidative parameters, with the appropriate tools. Then we have an information campaign still going on, targeting patients with fibromyalgia, and the objective is to the appointment of 60 patients allocated to intervention and control group. And then a part of definition of eligibility and participation criteria, they have prepared an ethical documentation, including informed consent, of course, consent of data processing, and insurance coverage for all the participants. We had, of course, the collection of socio-demographical, function, and psychological and physiological measures before each session, environment data, air quality, methodological parameters for each session. And then, of course, we pass to the analysis of the effects, analysis of statistical significance and magnitude of acute effect, the evaluation of environment and individual determinant influencing the observed outcomes, and finally the assessment of the persistence of effect over time through targeted follow-up using selected questionnaires and physiological measures. When we concluded the research, of course, we prepare an organization and comprehensive analysis of all collected data, and then preparation of and submission of at least one scientific article to international peer-reviewed journals indexed in PubMed, and including of dissemination activity like for instance, at least one presentation in Italian and one in English at national and international conference, at least one public event to present and disseminate the project result. The work to prepare the scientific research started last year. You know, it's not so easy to combine all the action within the project in a public health system. There are a lot of problems to solve and obstacles, especially when you arrive at the end of the year. The core of the project will be developed in this year, 26, and conclude in 27. This is our work. Thanks for your attention, and this is my email address if you want more details or we want to update it about the evolution of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rossi. It's been a pleasure to have you and all of the other speakers in this webinar. I think is a little bit longer in the time, but I think it's worth it because it was very full and complete about forest therapy. That is a theme that is not very simple to manage, but it's very important to have this experience in our territory. So I hope that our experience in Montagne Fiorentina Model Forest could help other people to get more into this practice. We answered already too many questions. There were a question for Andrea Dini about the lead forest therapy session for people with physical disabilities. That I think is quite important to answer because we work quite a lot about this topic. So Andrea, can you answer it? You're still there? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the question. It was very, very interesting. Yes, as we try to involve as much as we can people in our activities in general and forest therapy of Tuscany, forest model of Montagne Fiorentine. We have a special wheelchair. I don't know if you know the Giolette, which is a special wheelchair with a one wheel only, and that's it was designed in France for taking people on trails. And we already used that last year for a couple of forest therapy experiences. So we took one person, two people actually, one and one, to have to the places. And so they were enjoying the experience as everybody else. And that was very deep and beautiful for the whole group. We were all equal. There was no difference. And everybody was enjoying it the same way. So I think it was a very good question to be posed. I forgot to mention that. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And about the question from Anila Khan, she's saying, in my country there is very little amount of research work on forest therapy used health intervention, and I want to study on forest therapy intervention for stress reduction in patients, and then develop a framework guideline how we can implement on policy level. And there is no policy, sorry, I lost it. Talking about nature-based intervention, either my study will be beneficial as the initiative of research. I really don't know how to answer actually, but the only thing that I can say is that we approach to model forest therapy with no support actually from the policy, but we did with the help of the CNR, so the research part, and we really believe and in it and in the scientific part. So I think that the most important thing about the forest therapy initiative and experiences are the scientific base on it, because it's very easy to don't get very serious on it. And this is, I think, the only way to try to change the things from the bottom, from the real experiences and the real research. And so, and one more thing is to study other experiences in similar places, in places similar to your state, to your place. So you can see how you can do that and how you can change things.
Matteo,
yeah.
If I can, I would
Sure.
only like to suggest for the aspect connected with the governance and policymaker involvement to look at the documents that we have prepared and collected in the website of the old project Green for Care. And there are quite interesting documents that have been agreed with the policymaker on how to support the development of green care activity in general and even more specific forest therapy initiative. You find on the web and on my presentation the website that is anyway greenforcare.eu, European Union. greenforcare.eu.
Thank you, Davide. And there is one more very technical question about the medical, about the key methodological elements in cancer patients. So I don't know if Elio Rossi or Francesco Meneguzzo can answer it.
Elio
No,
Rossi.
I didn't understand
sorry.
the question. Sorry, Matteo. I didn't. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, if we were to design a randomized controlled trial evaluating the effects of forest therapy on serum, cortisol, and physiological stress in cancer patients, what's the key methodological elements will ensure that the evidence generated is robust enough, not only for academic publication, but also for persuasive to public makers, policymakers, sorry.
Well, I think that forest therapy can be very helpful for patients with oncological disease. But to design a randomized study, it's okay, but we have to have a large number of patients to build up a control group living in the different situation and not practicing nature for batting or therapy. And I think that this is the main problem, how to select the people and decide that on the basis of the pathology, the oncological pathology. The most observed, I can say that, but it's a personal opinion, that one pathology that is with unfortunately a large number is exactly the cancer of mama and breast cancer, in other words, and these and women who are more sensitive to this kind of natural trials, natural therapy, and probably this is the target of our next study after fibromyalgia, and this is a possibility that we try to propose again to the Tuscany region to see what it happens after these 3 years of study of fibromyalgia study, and it depends on the result of the study, of course.
Thank you very much, Elio Rossi, Dr. Rossi. About the forest therapy in Europe. Don't know if Federica Zabini or Francesco Meneguzzo can get a quick answer, because I think that Letizia is not possible to answer right now.
Well, about forest therapy in Europe, research has finally come since a few years to Europe, such as in Italy, but in most other countries. What it is missing is, of course, the integration into public healthcare systems. But as Elio Rossi said before, it needs more experimentation with patients. This is what it is lacking, and of course it is not as easy as to simply say this, because it needs long procedures on the ethical side, and the recruitment of patients, and not only for intervention, but also, as Elio told very well before, for a control group. We know that there is a substantial dropout from these groups, especially from the intervention group. So you need to have a lot of patients, very strong and large groups. I think that research on general population, part of which about 40% of our about 3,000 people involved were affected by chronic diseases, but there are two sparse diseases across a wide range of diseases, so difficult to draw conclusions about the effects on. And so RCT studies such as the one on fibromyalgia that about which Elio told before, and that is going to start right now, are of paramount importance. As far as I know, except maybe very localized examples, maybe in Germany, maybe in Bayern and Mecklenburg, maybe. Forest therapy is not prescribed, such as SPAS, let's say. It is hydrothermal medicine, SPAS, where one can go with the prescription of the doctor. It is not yet been implemented. But, for example, in Italy, I think that at least at the regional level, it will become reality in very few years. It is going to be this way.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. I hope we answered to all the questions. I saw that on the Q&A there are more comments, and I really want to thank every one of you, because there are still 90 people in the webinar, and I think is a very quite important theme, and I hope that all people in here has enjoyed the words and the point of view of our speakers. And one thing is important, in my opinion, about forest therapy is the many point of view that we have to talk about forest therapy. We cannot just mention only the health, human health, or only the environment, or only the economic value, but we need to focus on all of these dimensions, and this is something that we have to we use the same methodology with many things about environmental, about climate. So I think it's a very unique occasion and very important thing to talk about. So I give back the word to FAI. and Kayla, and thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Matteo. So before we close, I would once again like to sincerely thank our speakers for organizing and contributing to this webinar on such an important topic and their engagement in answering the in-depth responses for each question that was raised in the Q&A section. All of these, the key insights that were raised today will be taken forward and discussed in much greater depth during the Mediterranean Network Forum. So if you're going there, we cannot wait to continue the discussion. And finally, please just note that we will send a follow-up email to all registered participants. This email will include the webinar recording, the link to the Mediterranean Network Forum, the full program, the registration link for the final webinar, and all of the relevant documents that were mentioned during today's sessions by our speakers. So we encourage you to explore these resources and stay engaged in our upcoming activities. And for those who would like a certificate of attendance, please fill the survey that was sent in the chat earlier. So once again, thank you so much for your time and engagement. We wish you a very pleasant day and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.